Last week, Harry did a whistle stop in his homeland to pay homage to the wounded veterans, the inspiration upon which his flagship project, the Invictus Games, is based. And it was quite a sight to see the reception that he received from the crowd gathered to see him at St. Paul's. It was quite honestly a vindication of all the negative press he has had to endure from the Royal Rota, negative press that only intensified after his bold decision to flee England and the royal family with Meghan and his infant son. So leading up to this visit, the press, of course, worked itself up into a froth, attempting to anticipate whether or not he would see his father. Indeed, it was a bit comical to see the press, who has long been starved of any information about Harry, and as a result are often forced to fill in the gaps with baseless speculation and made-up narratives that are usually one-sided, try to spin that Harry was snubbed, isolated, and left in tears. This is no doubt Charles and William's desire, by the way, to see Harry humiliated for the awful crime of writing a memoir about his experiences, both good and bad, growing up in the royal family. His detractors often like to use this as a cudgel to attack him, claiming he trashed his family. But did he really trash his family in Spare? If anyone actually read the book, they would find that there was actually very little trashing at all, but rather his own candid account of what he experienced. His own truth, a truth that some members might find chafing. Let's begin with his father. In Spare, Harry mentions his father mostly with fondness and a frankness about their relationship with regard to the entry of Camilla, a woman who by all accounts tormented his mother throughout her marriage, driving her to the brink of suicide. We all know the story. Diana was eventually literally driven to her death after divorcing Charles and leaving the royal family. And one of the themes mentioned not only in Spare but in many other accounts has a lot to do with Charles's jealousy of Diana.
In the early days, Diana's light was small, but he began to shine brighter and brighter and brighter, and it was a sort of a Star is Born situation. Prince Charles would say to her, "While I married you, I made you a princess. You weren't born royal. I'm the royal." So it would peeve him when on royal visits people would be shouting on one side of the street, "We want Diana, we want Diana."
Take thee, Philip, Charles, Arthur, George, my wedded husband, to have and to hold, this day forward.
And I just find it quite sad that throughout most of this man's life, his singular purpose, having been raised as the heir, has been to attempt to outshine everyone around him, including his own sons. So his behavior last week only highlighted his true nature. It made him look small-minded and petty, and the effect they hoped to achieve by snubbing Harry and the wounded veterans, choosing instead to host some frumpy little garden party, resoundingly backfired. Harry ended up looking more regal and mature, stating plainly that his father had no time to see him. They then followed it up with a much heralded tour of Nigeria that looked a bit too royal for the king's liking. Buckingham Palace was sent into a tizzy, evident in their shifting narratives and hasty appointment of William to head Harry's old regiment, which once again backfired as William ended up looking like a spoiled and undeserving Nepo baby. I mean, Harry's a Nepo baby too, but at least he knows how to fly the damn thing. So a couple of weeks back, I came across some articles that pretty much cements my theory about Kate never coming back. Here's one article trying to anoint Sophie as some kind of replacement for Kate. Here's another one proclaiming Beatrice as the firm's secret weapon. So they're clearly in a desperate search of someone to fill the vacuum left behind by Kate in order to try and save this dying monarchy right now, since William, the next in line, is proving to be a disaster. And folks, never before has it been more apparent what a tragically mediocre person William is, as with the absence of Kate. For all these years, it was Kate who was in fact carrying him. Any popularity they shared was due to Kate. And now that she's gone, the curtain has been drawn and everyone can see him for who he really is, a sad, jealous, and controlling figure, desperate for relevance and public approval. And I believe that just as Charles was jealous of the attention Diana received, so was William jealous of Kate. Whenever they would go out on their engagements, Kate dazzled. It was her who drew the crowds and who people wanted to see. William, instead of being the proud husband, seethed with envy, just like his father did with Diana. And I came across this piece of video the other day, maybe a couple of years back, where Kate is on the phone doing some sort of fundraiser.
Finished up.
Wait seconds.
But now,
And William suddenly snaps at her to stop flirting. Now, this is from one of his fan accounts, so they tried to play it off like he was joking. But if you look closely, he doesn't appear to be joking at all. And Kate clearly got the message because she immediately apologizes. And so I think that just shows what a preternaturally insecure person William is. He's been raised all his life to believe that he is special, that he is the chosen one, and that therefore everyone must defer to him. And just like Charles with Diana, it must have bothered him that she may have had a little more star power than him. His rage had already reached its zenith with the departure of his brother, whom he relied on in order to juxtapose his own image. Harry was supposed to be the chronic fuck-up, but something happened to cause him to lose control over Harry. Meghan showed up and practically rescued Harry, letting him see that there could be a life outside of living under the thumb of his pusillanimous father, who chose his mistress over his own children, and whom Harry had to rely on for money, and his over-controlling brother, who needed Harry to forever be under his control, to use as his personal court jester, providing the press with endless fodder, detracting from the reports that he was dull and work-shy. Except Harry ended up outshining him. And when Meghan came into the picture, it made things even worse for William, because he could clearly see now that he was going to lose Harry forever and no longer have him under his control. And so what did he do? Well, what he continues to do to this day: feed the press lies about Harry wanting to come back while channeling his deep hatred for Meghan. Because for those of you who are thinking that this is going to be a channel that's going to trash either Meghan or Kate, you are mistaken. The press pits one woman against the other at the direction of the royal family. So just remember that every time you read something negative about her in one of Murdoch's rags, you are reading William's direct thoughts. And did you ever wonder why he hates her so much? He hates her simply because he believes that she took Harry away from him. And he was supposed to determine how high Harry could fly. And Harry was never supposed to fly higher than him. And then there is the matter of his temper. In Spear, one of Harry's most sensational revelations was an incident in which William attacks him, causing him to fall onto a dog bowl, shattering it, causing the shards to cut into his flesh. And there is no reason to doubt that this actually happened. William's famous temper has by now made the rounds, even in the sympathetic press, where it has been stated that even his father is fearful of him. And this, folks, in my opinion, is the crucial moment which explains the crux of William's indefatigable anger towards his brother. After the incident, Harry states that William was apologetic, which is so often the case with abusers after they have been violent, and begs Harry not to tell Meghan. Harry then promises, but after arriving home, Meghan, upon seeing all the bruises on him, is alarmed and questions Harry about what happened, which he is then forced to confess. Now, why would it be so important for William that Harry not let on to Meghan, or anyone else for that matter, that he had attacked him? Because abusers commonly live a double life. They show one face to the public, usually that of the charming, upstanding family man, always smiling and affable. But at home, it's a different story. At home, the charming and affable man becomes a tyrant. And there are numerous leaks to the press over the years of Kate being brought to tears, of trying to restrain his violent temper, of having things thrown at her, of being verbally abused. So this is what I believe is the main source of William's anger towards his brother, that he revealed to the world in his book William's propensity for violence. And if you know anything about an abusive sociopath, it's that one of the worst things in the world for them is to have their cover blown. They thrive on the public's false perception of them. And when that mask is lifted, their true face is revealed. So I mentioned before in a previous video why I believe there is a kind of apathy among the British public regarding Kate's disappearance, and that, in my opinion, it is linked to the media manufactured rivalry between Meghan and Kate. The press likes to pit the two women against each other because they want to deepen the gulf between the Meghan camp and the Kate camp. And as long as we're focused on this false rivalry, then we can ignore all of William's bad behavior. Now, I have often seen this phrase pop up regarding both Meghan and Kate, and it is a phrase which I find dripping with misogyny, and that is, that's what she signed up for. And folks, I can't tell you how offensive I find this phrase. Nobody, I repeat, nobody signs up to be abused. Princess Diana did not sign up to be abused and tormented by the press, her husband, and her husband's mistress. Meghan did not sign up to be abused by the press and by extension, the royal family, whom I believe is behind much of the negative press against her. And Kate did not sign up to be abused by her husband simply because he has no further need of her. Now, I know there are a lot of people who don't like Kate because they believe she didn't stick up for Meghan. They often ridicule her for being a poor speaker, and I find this, frankly, to be unfair. Many people are poor speakers often because they are nervous speaking in public, And that's usually related to issues of shyness. Shyness is an issue of low self-esteem stemming from trauma as a result of being bullied. There are accounts that Kate, while attending Down School from none other than Lady Gabriella, widow of the late Thomas Kingston, who also attended Down School at the same time as Kate, that Kate was mercilessly bullied. And I wondered, well, why is it that she was bullied? I don't think it had anything to do with her intelligence. After all, she got better marks than William did. But what I think it had to do with is that Kate was bullied because of her class. If you recall, Carol and Michael Middleton were not exactly aristos, but former flight attendants turned entrepreneurs. And there's nothing more bourgeois than that which the lazy aristocracy actually finds distasteful. So Kate entered the prestigious Down School as an outsider. And in terms of class, she simply did not belong there. And from a non-British perspective, in order to understand British society is to understand that class runs at the very heart of British culture. After all, these are the folks who invented hierarchies of nobility and made up titles according to one's proximity to the monarch. So Lady Gabriella belonged at Down School because she was, by birth, a member of the nobility, but not Kate. Not a girl from a solid middle-class background, granddaughter of a coal miner. And I often thought that Kate must have been tormented throughout her life, sandwiched between Britain's pernicious class system and her mother's ambitions. And as far as Carol, she herself is a product of Britain's class system. If you ask many mothers, they will tell you that they would like for their daughters to marry a doctor or a lawyer. So it's kind of the same thing. So you can't really blame Carol for wanting the best for her daughters. But little did she know that by engineering Kate's future, when she orchestrated her encounter with William, she would be sacrificing her firstborn child to a secretive cult-like organization whose record of betrayals and treating women as mere incubators to continue the royal bloodline date back centuries. But folks, there are always going to be handmaids of the patriarchy. Certain women who willingly choose to enable abusive and controlling men if it means furthering their own ambitions. And I believe that we will soon discover that William and Charles are not alone in the disappearance of Kate, and that there is someone else who has managed to masterfully play the media game, flying onto the radar for the longest time, and who I believe actually plays a more prominent role in Kate's disappearance, more so than we would ever have imagined.